Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm sorry we are going a little late today. We had some issues, but I'm really excited to introduce this next speaker. So let's learn a little about Keisha Greaves. Dealing with chronic pain every day is hard, mentally and physically, but we can adjust our mindset to allow us to enjoy our everyday lives, even with a chronic condition or diagnosis. Because despite our best efforts, maybe like this morning, some days are going to be harder than others, and it's okay. And that's why we're here today, to fill in the gaps that exist in traditional healthcare and provide actionable ways to change your health, eliminate your pain, and increase your quality of life without pills, puzzles, or procedures. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah, and I'm so excited to introduce Keisha Greaves, a motivational speaker and the founder of Girls Chronically Rock. After being diagnosed with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, she became an advocate for all individuals with disabilities. She has a passion for fashion, living her best life, and encouraging others to do the same. For the next 45 minutes, she's going to talk about what it's like to live with a chronic illness and how to commit yourself to living your life regardless of what comes your way. Please welcome Keisha Greaves.
Good morning. Hello. Good morning. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on your show this morning.
Thank you for getting up and joining us. I'm excited to hear you speak.
Yes, of course. So for today, I am going to be talking a little bit about myself, what it's like living with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, but also why I'm balancing owning my own business, clothing brand, Girls Chronically Rock. So I'm just going to go ahead and give a little background as to how this all started and things like that. So in around 2010, I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. I was actually in graduate school receiving my master's degree, and I just started to get really weird symptoms within my body. I would just be walking and my leg would kind of just give out on me. I would just totally lose my balance and I would wound up on the floor, pretty much kind of like a dead weight, not able to get myself back up, not knowing what was going on. But I just kind of brushed it off. But it just kept on happening. Like I just would be walking and my leg would buckle and my leg would just give out. So my mom and sister were like, I think you need to go see a neurologist. Or first they said an orthopedist because they think it was something maybe within my feet. So I said, okay, still not really thinking anything of it, just kind of brushed it off like, oh, la-di-da, I don't think it's no big deal. Maybe I just need to exercise and lose some weight. So at that time me and my mom and I, we went to go to see the orthopedist. We made an appointment out here in Boston at Tufts Medical Hospital. So I always remember that appointment. We just kind of walk in, we go see the orthopedic, and two doctors came in, regular examination. They just kind of looked at me, just examined me. They told me to raise my right leg, and the right leg would not move. It was pretty much kind of like a dead weight. It would not move up and down. So I kind of thought, I thought that was strange because I never noticed that before. And then both doctors just kind of looked at each other like, that's strange. They was like, I think you need to see a neurologist because this looks more like a neuromuscular, situation. So I'm just like, okay, no big deal, whatever. So then I go see a neurologist out here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I live at Mount Auburn Hospital. And I see a neurologist called Catherine Wang. And she's awesome. I still see her till this day, by the way. I'm so happy. And she, as soon as I go in to see her, we go to take several testings. I get EKG, MRI, EMG. We even did a muscle biopsy where they took a piece of muscle from out of my right leg to test it. So that was a very interesting experience as well, because I never had a muscle biopsy done and I was awake. All they really did was numb around my right leg while they took the piece of muscle out. So that was quite interesting. So from that muscle biopsy, that's when they were able to determine I have muscular dystrophy. So I remember getting that phone call when Catherine Wang called me and was like, Keisha, your muscle biopsy test results came back. You have muscular dystrophy. So I'm like, what is that? I never heard of it. Like, nobody in my family seems to have it. So I'm just like, what? Is she correct? Because, I just thought maybe she had something wrong. Something wasn't right. So, of course, I just start to shut down. And then, of course, first thing I do is go to the computer and start Googling and start, researching muscular dystrophy. What does this mean? Like, do I really have it? So I just was in total shock. I was just totally shutting out, not really telling family and friends. The only way family knew was because, my mom, would tell her sisters. And then, of course, that spread to my cousins. But otherwise than that, it wasn't something that, I was spreading or, YouTubing about or blogging about. So I totally just shut down. So at that time when I had muscular dystrophy, I was more able-bodied, like I was able to drive, be more independent, not rely on personal care attendants, and able just to live my life independently. So as time progressed on, then I started to use a cane. And at that time, when I started to use a cane, even that was a shocker. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to have to wear this cane. Like, I don't like it. But of course, no matter what cane I wore, like, or used, it was a fashionable. I always had like cheetah, zebra print, or some kind of cane. So even when I was going to job interviews, when I had my cane, I would tell them like, "Oh, I sprained my ankle, or I was in a car accident." That's how much in denial I was. I was saying everything but muscular dystrophy. So I just kind of said whatever came to mind at first, like, "Oh, I was in a car accident. I sprained my ankle," because it's like me saying muscular dystrophy out loud. It felt like, wow, that's real. So that's what my story was, acknowledging, oh, car accident or sprained ankle, until further notice. But I knew it was time I eventually had to tell my employers or whoever I was working with at the time, like I had muscular dystrophy, because in my land of work, my field of work, fashion industry, working in retail stores, of course, they would want me to go get backstock, want me to climb up and down stairs or ladders. And those were things I could not do. So I had to eventually tell somebody, like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to climb up those stairs or ladder to get that backstock because I have muscular dystrophy. So that's how some of it kind of came out with speaking to different employers. So, but of course, I was still in total denial. I was in shock, not figuring out what my future holds. Are my dreams that I want to do, is that going to come to fruition for me? So, fast forward a few years later, and it was when the day I wrote my first blog on Tumblr, living with muscular dystrophy, limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, was when, as I started typing and saying it out loud, was when I actually acknowledged myself, like, wow, I have muscular dystrophy. Like, it was so crazy. It was like it took that moment for me to say, wow, as I'm typing it out, talking about my symptoms and the journey I went through, I'm like, I have muscular dystrophy. Look at that. It was like it took that moment, not what the doctors were saying or anything like that. It was just that moment of me typing it and saying it out loud, I have muscular dystrophy. Kind of just made me open up that shell. It kind of cracked the door a little bit, not 100%, but just, cracked it a little bit of just kind of open it and sharing. And then I remember the day I posted it on social media and on Tumblr, I got so much great feedback. People are like, oh my God, I never knew, you were dealing with that. Cause looking at me, you would never know, when I wasn't really telling people about it. So they're like, oh, wow, thank you for sharing your story. So that kind of made me feel at ease, but still in denial at the same time. So then that's when I started reaching out to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and starting to connect with other individuals, because I'm like, there must be some kind of support groups of young adults, my age, because it's nothing like talking to somebody that understands what you're going through on a daily basis, because yes, you may get the support of family and friends, and yes, they are awesome, but there's nothing, and I mean nothing, like talking to somebody that actually understands what it's like living with a chronic illness / disability. So I was very excited to connect with other individuals, like myself, dealing with muscular dystrophy. But then I also, turned to social media like Facebook and Instagram, using hashtags, hashtag disability awareness, hashtag chronic illness, where, was pretty awesome, because then that just opened a range of a whole different network of other individuals. I'm meeting people with lupus, Lyme disease, MS. And it's like, yes, it may be all different chronic illnesses, but we can all connect and understand and can relate with each other. So that definitely helped me open up, and just kind of like more open up my shell, because I'm like, they can get it, so I just felt more comfortable chatting with them. And then that's when I started, because I always had a passion for fashion. I actually got my degree in fashion design and merchandising from Framingham State University. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, business owner, and have my own clothing line. So I thought maybe it's time, to put my dreams to use, my degrees that I have, when I thought, I'm a true believer in things do happen for a reason. So I thought I wanted to create a t-shirt graphic design with inspirational quotes that kind of express, my journey and what, I've been dealing with, along the way. So I didn't know exactly how I wanted the name to incorporate, but I knew I wanted something with the word chronic in it for chronic illnesses. So I honestly was just lying in bed one night and I thought, girls chronically rock. So I loved the way it sounded. I loved the way it flowed. And I loved it. So then I just kind of ran with it from there. I started off with Etsy.com at first. And then from there, that's when I launched my website. I trademarked the name, the logo, Girls Chronically Rock. And I just loved the way it sounded. And I'm like, Girls Chronically Rock movement. I just loved the way it sounded. And I just like, I plan to do so much more under the umbrella. So my t-shirt line consists of, I wanted to help inspire and motivate others in the disability community. So I have different t-shirt logo sayings that says, for instance, the one I have on, Girls Chronically Rock, of course. And then I have one that says trust your dopeness, which I created. Trust and believe in yourself. Trust and believe that you can accomplish and do anything you would like to do. I also have hello, my name is chronically ill badass. That seems to be everyone's favorite. And then I recently added trust your abilities. You know, like trust and believe whatever your abilities are, or regardless disability, able body, you can do whatever you want. So trust your abilities, a new one I added. And then, of course, with everything going on right now, I recently just added Black Lives Matter t-shirts. And then being African American and a disabled woman, I recently just launched a t-shirt that says Black Disabled Lives Matter. So that everyone seems to love that new line as well. So each day I just try to create different lines and different inspirational quotes that are meaningful for me that I know that would also be meaningful for others that kind of express my journey along the way. But Girls Chronically Rock, I am looking to make it into a major empire. As I said, I call it Girls Chronically Rock Movement. And my goal is to get Girls Chronically Rock hopefully into department stores such as Macy's, Target, TJX stores like Marshall's. And yes, I know with everything going on right now, a lot of stores are closing, but I think that things will get back to normal, and also they will still be selling online. So my goal is to get into some of those major department stores, and then also get into major fashion weeks such as New York Fashion Week, LA Fashion Week, Miami Fashion Week, just to spread awareness of Girls Chronically Rock and to also spread awareness of the chronic illness/disability community. So that's my goal of, branding Girls Chronically Rock and just living everyday life, living with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. It's tough. It definitely has its challenges. It has its challenges of, having to rely on personal care attendants and things like that. But I just try to take it day by day because I realize living with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, I have no control over this. And each day, I don't know what the body's going to do, if my body's going to feel more fatigued than the other, if I feel like I'm going to lose my balance one day and have a bad fall, so it kind of sucks. But I realize this is a part of me. And yes, I still have my days, but focusing on Girls Chronically Rock, my brand, and getting inspirational messages such on Instagram and Facebook, telling me how they love my brand, they love what I'm doing, and thank you for sharing my story, definitely makes me feel motivated and inspired, because sometimes you do doubt yourself, like, oh, maybe no one's paying attention. But when I get sweet messages like that, I just love, that just keeps me going and keeps my attitude going. And I feel excited about that. So yeah, I'm just going to continue to do me and continue to build Girls Chronically Rock. And I just want to spread awareness to the disability chronic illness community and go as far as, I can and build that Girls Chronically Rock empire. So I hope, does anyone have any questions or anything?
That was super awesome. I love how much you've put into this and how it keeps you going, and what an amazing story.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
If that's all you have, people can leave questions in the Facebook group as they come. I think a lot of people are going to catch the replays. So if you guys have questions that come up that you want to ask Keisha about, how she gets through her day or how she's found the energy and the time to do this business, even though she has all these other things going on, certainly pop those in the Facebook group. You could also contact her directly. I'm sure she wouldn't mind.
Yes, of course. Reach out my website, girlschronicallyrock.com, email. I answer anybody, so please reach out.
Yes. So thank you so much for being here. What a great message. Sometimes you just have to keep going.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, guys. Short, sweet, and to the point. Sometimes it's just about understanding that even when things aren't perfect or they aren't what you expected them to be, or this isn't what you envisioned for your future, it's okay. And you can still make it amazing and you can still do great things. So I will see you guys again in a couple hours with our last guest speaker for the week. So until then,